All right, guys, welcome to another live podcast, another live episode of the Watercraft Journal. I am your host. I'm editor-in-chief of the Watercraft Journal. My name is Kevin Shaw. We want to thank all of you guys who are tuning in, if you're watching this live, or if you choose to come in at a later day and watch this, by all means. This is a very exciting one for us, and it's only going to lead to further episodes that are going to be just like this. So we're really excited to welcome everyone here. While we wait for all you guys to come in, we're going to go over a couple little bits of news, and then I'll introduce our guest for tonight. And first and foremost, upcoming articles, upcoming content that we have coming up on the magazine. We have two videos that are coming out in the next 3 weeks. That will be on 2 to 3 weeks. We're working with Unlimited PWC products out of Japan, and we're helping JD's Water World and totally equipping their 310 LXS with basically everything that they got in the catalog. So there's a lot of billet aluminum. There's a lot of really cool anodized stuff. So we're going to be doing a opening video on that. We're going to be doing step-by-step installation on those parts, and that will be in both the magazine and the digital magazine at www.watercraftjournal.com, as well as paired onto the YouTube channel. So you're not going to want to miss that. We have reviews on the new Strapino automatic retracting ratchet straps. We have the final review of the Sand Docker anchor, and we have a couple rides that are coming up. We're doing a really neat ride up north. It's still a little cold up in the Great Lakes, but it's going to be the last hurrah for us on the on our 2022 Kawasaki Ultra 310 LX, and that's going to be a fun ride that we're going to have coming up. That is not a open invitation. That's going to be a closed invitation one. But that is going to be a really neat ride and video for us. And as I grab my marker to check things off, I want everyone to welcome Billy. Billy is in the house. Billy is here. Everyone say hello to Billy. I'm going to take a drink. This is going to be a lot of talking tonight. All right. So we got, let me mark some stuff off before I get a little backwards here. All right. Speaking of rides, our guest that we have tonight has been basically instrumental in helping me get on more watercraft and exploring more areas. I have to give a lot of credit to this gentleman for allowing me to ride in some really cool places. And one of those rides is coming up next month. We are not going to tell you when because I don't want people crashing, but we're going to be test riding the new 160 LX and LXS, the gold and the orange versions of the skis. Very excited for that, and we'll be in Northern California checking those out. Hopefully the weather is good. I know California has actually had some rain, so that's actually a miracle. Quite a bit of rain, but we're pretty stoked for that. And as soon as I'm done with that ride, I'm going to beg and plead to get my hands on one of the new 23s. I know it's not a supercharged version, and I'm looking and I'm asking for the orange one because I love the burnt orange and the metallic oranges that Kawasaki comes up with, but they might just say, hey, listen, you get what you get. Yes, sir. I'll take it. But I want to welcome our friend who I've known for a very long time, and there's been quite a bit of my life has changed because of this guy. So it felt very, very pertinent to bring on Mr. Jon Rall. Jon Rall is here, everyone, and Jon is now officially the title is the Public Relations Marketing Supervisor for Kawasaki, correct?
Four-wheel and watercraft.
Four-wheel and watercraft. Dang it, I knew I left something out.
Yeah.
Your resume has got to be the size of a ledger.
It's been an interesting time. You know, I've been here over 30 years. closer to 35 now.
Oh
But
my
it's
goodness.
really, really interesting, great run. And, Kevin, we so much enjoy having you attend all of our stuff. And I'm really proud of what you're doing, with the Watercraft Journal and also doing these and allowing, your people that write, that listen to you and everything else be able to, be part of it.
Well, I appreciate that, John. Thank you very much. Couple things about John, and I usually do more build up, but I wanted to bring him on because I'm so stoked to talk to him. Is John and you guys have caught me before where we end up talking cars on a Watercraft podcast, but John could not escape his roots in that this young man was raised in NASCAR country and stock car country, and actually started his career in motorsports and power sports working on a NASCAR team. And he's got stories, and every now and again we'll be at dinner or we'll start talking. He's like, oh, I got into it with this guy, or I sat around and sat in this garage with these guys and cracked some beers with these dudes. And he's just name dropping some of the biggest names. Just randomly. It's like, oh yeah. But if you could, can you tell, I kind of want to go through your career just a little bit before we start talking about all the shenanigans we've gotten into. So how did you get into NASCAR first?
How I got into NASCAR is I'd been involved with motorcycling for a long, long time. I'd also been racing motocross and also amateur flat track and then professional flat track. And I had a friend when I was in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and he asked me, said, hey, do you want to go to a NASCAR race? And I said, you know what? Never been to one, so let's go. Yeah. So the first one I went to was in California at Ontario Motor Speedway, and also we had stopped at Texas World Speedway. Well, my friend knew Richard Childress, and so we went with Richard Childress and also the late, great Junior Johnson was another group going with us. And so we all went to California, and then kind of after that, they needed an extra hand because somebody got sick while we were in Ontario. So I kind of had to do a bunch of stuff that I really had no idea what I was doing, but it was a fun part and everything. And then when I came back from there, Richard Childress asked me if I would come to work for him. So I went to work for Richard Childress, even when he drove the famous number 3 car, and then it just kind of progressed along. But I will have to say, I was always still involved with the motorsports end of motorcycling and, just that whole scene and everything.
Okay. So,
and then, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say was that here you are in NASCAR, and I know you said, hey, listen, I would help out with the guys at Cowie, and then that turned into a full-time career. I'm like, how do you go from NASCAR? What brought you from NASCAR, or was it totally not related to NASCAR, and it was your interest in motocross that brought you into Cowie?
Actually, it was just my interest in the motorcycle industry. I was also working at a motorcycle dealership and involved with a motorcycle dealership back in Chapel Hill. Okay. And I'd always wanted to work for Cowie because I'd known some people out there at Cowie. And so I moved to California, and they said, look, we don't have any jobs or anything open right now and everything. But my first day that I got to California, I got a call from a person here, Carolyn O'Donnell, and said, well, how come you're not at work today? I said, well, I just moved out here and you said there was no job. So I started off as a temp working in the consumer events, doing all the trade shows, demo rides and everything else. And, it kind of progressed from there. But all my buddies involved with NASCAR and the groups that I was with knew that this was my really total passion and love. Being in the motorcycle power sports industry is where I really wanted to be. And Cowie is where I wanted to be. So, that's how it kind of progressed.
Well, then you landed on your feet, and that I love the why aren't you here?
Oh yeah.
I got hired. Oh, okay.
And it was kind of interesting because another close friend of mine that you know, Croft Long, he and I both grew up in the Carolinas, and he had always wanted to work for an OEM too. And there was a position open, and my friends at Cali asked me, said, "Do you know somebody that would fit this position?" I said, "Yeah, Croft Long." So Croft and I both, ended up out here
Oh,
because
great.
we both, the passion, you have to have a passion for this. I could have, be honest with you, I was making really good money doing NASCAR and stuff like that. And I
Oh,
really
yeah.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed the people and everything. But as I'll tell you, the power sports industry is where I wanted to be.
Right.
And, I'd done a lot of jet skiing also back when I was involved with the dealership because nobody else there really understood jet ski. So I was the one that always was taking people out, teaching them. And that's back in the 550, 400s,
Oh, yeah.
that whole part of the beginning and everything. So that's where I kind of started and everything, and it just progressed to more.
Okay. So 91 was when you were full time.
That's when they said, "Hey, you're full time now."
Yeah.
All the Japanese companies had a lot of people working for them at that time, but none of them were full time. And then everybody started becoming full time because they were just told, "Well, we can't." Mr. IRS or somebody got
Right.
involved and said, "You
Yeah.
can't do that." So anyhow, a bunch of us then got hired on and everything. So that's where
So
that kind of started.
that's really interesting because, I mean, there's a lot of guys who would say, hey, listen, early 90s is really where you start seeing the momentum really build up behind the jet ski marketplace. And
Yes,
so,
sir.
I mean, Kawasaki and Yamaha and Sea-Doo and all these guys are coming in with dozens of units each. I mean, they're really coming in with a lot of offerings. I mean, there's a heck of a lineup there. And one of the neatest things, though, is Kawasaki. Now, everyone at the time, of course, and it's hard to compare 2023 to 1991 because
Yes,
it was
sir.
a totally different energy. But at that time, was there, I don't want to say favoritism, but was there kind of a priority where it's like, listen, jet skis are hot. We need all hands on deck.
Yes, I mean there was that, and going to the boat shows, because I was in the consumer events department, and we were doing our shows. Plus, I was helping with. We did jet ski demo tours back then.
Okay.
We did a lot of different things, with PWC back then. So a boat show, they could sell maybe 4,000, 5,000 stands up at one boat show and everything. And,
God.
we were doing all the major ones. And then too, there were some of our dealers that I think, were maybe shipping some out of country and stuff like that. Not that
Well,
they ever would and
yeah.
everything.
Is that gray label? Is that what they typically call that? Is
Oh yeah. And that was
yeah.
an interesting time too.
That's a
But it
big
was really
no-no. I
interesting.
understand.
It was really interesting to see where the PWC market was going and starting to grow. Also, too, I mean, yeah, I'd like to see everybody on a Kawasaki, but let's be real. It's actually, we need the other brands and we need the competition. So, it
No.
was kind of cool to see maybe Polaris get into it, maybe Arctic Cat get into it, and just see the more and more. And when we'd go to World Finals and there'd be 70,000 people there and everything, and they used to tell us as manufacturers, all you could have was a 20 by 20 display area. Then you also, too, saw all the manufacturers renting houseboats that would be out, on the side of the courses and stuff. So I think it was just a great time and everything. And there were so many people that were so involved and, had the passion. And that was fun to see and be around and everything. I went out to Havasu the first time, I think in '88. And Waltz back then used to do a poker run. And to see a
Yes.
couple of hundred on Saturday, a couple hundred, stand-up people doing a poker run and stuff like that. I
Can you
mean, how
imagine?
great was that? I still have my T-shirts from actually they're over here in the museum here at Kawasaki. I survived the poker run and everything. So it was just great to see so many people getting out on the water.
Yeah.
And
Okay. So that's
yeah,
a good. Okay. I guys, I gotta take 1 second. we're not looking at Jon in his office. We're looking at Jon. He's almost he's almost in the foyer of the building. And if I don't expect you to because you're set up your camera. But when we were talking, they were set up, and you can see all the displays behind him. He's got some of the coolest stuff on. If you've ever been, I haven't been to the new building. I haven't. I moved to Tennessee in 2012. And you guys moved, I think, in 16?
Yes,
15?
sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
15 or 16. And they moved that museum into a kind of this really nice, really very pretty atrium. And I was like, oh man, and it was just really funny. So I have to make the joke that when he says, oh yeah, my shirts are in the museum, like, and we're right there.
Yeah. The one thing is too is really cool is we don't have it open all the time and everything to the public, but if somebody does get in touch with me, I do try to take the time to walk them through because we like showing them the history of Kawasaki. That's another thing for me personally, the history here, and just people are shocked at all the different things that we build, whether it's the airplane parts, whether it's, if anybody's in New York or DC, we build the subway system rail cars for there. And we build that stuff along with the Kawasaki JetSkis in Lincoln, Nebraska. And that's another thing too, is I've been out to that plant. I couldn't tell you a couple hundred times and everything, but Tyler and his whole gang and everybody that's out there, they're as passionate about what they build there as I am about what I do and everything.
I got to say, are you willing to do one more? Because I've never been, and that'd be a real treat to go check them out.
Yeah, we need to do that.
Okay.
I got to get you out there. That's something that we got to do.
Yeah,
and now I will tell all your people is if you go on to the Kawasaki website, KMM, Kawasaki Motors Manufacturing in Lincoln, Nebraska, they do tours through there.
Oh, cool.
And I've taken so many people there that don't care about any of our products, but when they see, we employ about 2,800 people there. And when you see them building the jet skis, when you see them building the side-by-sides, because all the jet skis for the world are built there and shipped throughout the world from Lincoln, Nebraska. And the side-by-sides, ATVs that we make are built there, shipped throughout the world. We also build the rail cars for, the subway systems I talked about out there. We also build some Boeing products out there too.
Wow.
So it's pretty neat.
So you said 2,800 employees.
Yes, sir.
That's a good crew, man. That's substantial. All right.
Just the whole group that works out there. And then one thing that they're always so excited about is when tours do go through there, the people that work there are so happy to see because they've got a lot of pride in what they're doing at our plant. So, I can't thank the folks at KMM always for opening the doors for me, but also for opening it up to anybody that would like to see.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, that was not in my notes, so I'm glad that you're able to bring that up. I was going to say something, and I know you mentioned it a couple times, is especially today. Today's a little different than say what we're talking about 1991, 95, mid 90s. But one of the things that has been it's really stood out in the last couple of years is that so much of Kawasaki remains staffed by really enthusiastic guys. And being in media, I've been able to talk to a lot of different people, different manufacturers, and it's not often you talk to someone who on a Saturday will unload a dirt bike and go ride, or a side-by-side, or a watercraft. And they're like, oh no, I go bicycling, or I go to the wineries, or I'm whoop-de-doo-doo-doo-doo. And they do all these different little hobbies. And you talk to the guys at Cowie, and they're like, hell yeah, dude, we go ride, we go put in at Oceanside, or we go. And I was like, oh, okay, these guys are absolutely passionate about this stuff. So it kind of delineates a little bit of the spirit when you talk to the Cowie guys. The Cowie guys are like really devout.
Well, that's something that's very important to us here, and very important to a lot of us. Whether it's Bobby, or whether it's myself, whether it's Katamori, Fuzzy, and probably your listeners know a lot of these people and everything. All of them are so passionate. And like I've been telling you, we used to do this has been years ago, just because we're all so busy now. We have like every place, things have shrunk and everything. But we used to do a Wednesday night ride with everybody. We used to load up at 4 o'clock and head down to Oceanside and ride stand-ups until basically they'd run us off the water. And then we would do, fish tacos before we came home and everything. But there's such a large group of people here, that I work with. And what's really cool is we have some new people in our tech shop, Borky and stuff like that. And he's gotten into it now, and he's more and more into it. And it's fun to see all these people that are so passionate about it, and that really we all care, and we're always available and stuff like that. So, anytime, Kevin, you can get in touch with us on a Saturday, or if you have a question, you don't have to go through me to go to Bobby and stuff like that, because Bobby may be able to explain it to you and everything. Right. And the late Aaron Kress, Aaron and I were good friends, and as you were with him and everything, we miss him. But the things he did and how many people he would try to help, with an issue or whatever, everybody here
gave up a lot of his time to help out dudes at Dana Point, and it's like, who is this guy? And you're like, oh yeah, he works at Cowie Corporate, and you're like, oh man, it's Aaron was an absolute character. Really so passionate. It was a dream job of his to get in with Kanamori and Fuzzy. And, I couldn't have thought of a better person than Bobby to pick up the baton when we lost Aaron.
Yeah, and he's done a great job with it, and I really appreciate what he's done, And, I'll tell you, with the Aaron situation and everything, that was really sad. But what I want to tell you and everybody else is make sure you get your yearly exams and stuff like that, protect yourself and everything, because, health is number one and everything. So,
right. You got to take care of yourself.
Sorry to throw that in there, but I just, it's about being healthy and everything. But the people in here that walk the hallways here, whether it's a Joe Heim or Katamori or Fuzzy or, any of the people, and there's tons more I could mention off, are passionate about it. Even, Jocelyn, one of my coworkers, she's passionate about learning more and more about PWC. I mean, you saw her video the other day. She went to help break in some skis.
Yeah, in the rain.
In the pouring rain and everything. They're like, oh, I'm having fun now. But, that's part of it. And, we've all done it and we all enjoy it. But, there's a lot of passion here.
We'll get back a little bit on the topic of rides. I think it's something really funny was my introduction. I shouldn't say it this way, because my introduction to I want to say a new generation of Kawasaki product was the very first week that I became editor of Personal Watercraft Illustrated back in 2007. And I was being walked around by Paul Carruthers, and he takes me downstairs into the garage and he goes, oh yeah, we've got this brand new supercharged Cowie. There's this Viper red and black 07 250X. And I'm like, what is this thing? And he goes, oh, take it out. And I'm like, well, like Saturday? And he goes, no, this is your job. We got wetsuits. Grab some gear. Here's the trailer. Go take it out. And it was my third day in the office. I finally was like, okay, I guess I got some time. And I took that 250 out, and I'm like, this is an animal. This stinking thing is absolutely unhinged. Now, it had been, I had not gotten my hands on any of the other supercharged watercraft before then. Like the Cowie was the first supercharged ski I ever tried out, and that was I think we went to the Long Beach Marine Stadium, which is flat. Yeah, and I just did roundy rounds on it, and I'm like, this thing is ridiculous. And it was so funny was in reaching out to you, because you were on the list of contacts. You were like, well, hey, why don't you come down? We'll talk and check it out. And I said, oh, okay. And that I think we had one or two conversations beforehand. Mm-hmm. And John, did we lose your light? It's looking a little dark on your end.
No, I'm still got light.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, it's all right. It's just looking a little dark on your end. So, but I got to start with this ride. Was the email came through, and you're like, listen, you're kind of a last minute stand-in. We had someone drop out, but do you have a passport? We're going to go from Miami to Bimini.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, okay. And we were going to ride naturally aspirated LXs. And I said, that's, if you need me to unload the truck and the trailer, I'll sleep in the trailer if you, whatever you'll let me do. And that ride was such a riot. And I've shared that story before a couple times, but I got to ask about the cast of characters that you got on that thing. Because we had a gentleman who not only worked for Playboy,
yes,
but he was either married or a longtime boyfriend of Jill St. John, who was the Bond girl on Diamonds Are Forever.
Right.
Couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And we had a couple other, but everyone was kind of an older guy. I was the youngest there besides John Baines.
Yeah.
And we left out of Miami and everything looked great. And it was smooth. It was just nice, gentle rollers. And John's up front. And John, the one thing about John is that you can always identify John because John's got a big flop hat. He's got a big wide brim hat with it's a cinched up safari hat. And you can see him up front, and he never sits. All right. This guy could be 80 years old. And he'll still be riding in white caps standing up. It's the best. And you can see him way up front. And John Baines was sheepdogging in the back. And we stopped every 20 minutes for these old guys to take a break. And I'm not trying to be ageist or, I got white in my beard too. But, I mean, these guys were just not riders. They
didn't realize how far Bimini was and everything. And you got to remember, we did it before the other people were doing it too. We did it, in the beginning. But, yeah, that cast of characters was something.
Yeah, it was something else. But the hard thing, though, was once we got there, and it was beautiful.
Yes.
And we got checked in, went through customs, did all the jazz. We finally get to the I think we rented a bunch of little condos.
Yep.
And then you start texting everyone or calling everyone going, we're meeting at the pool in an hour. We got an announcement. We all go to the pool, and you're like, we got to go home.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, what? We just got here. It's like, dude, we got this tropical storm coming in. We got to get the hell out of here tomorrow. We're leaving at 5:30 in the morning. And we rode all the way back the very next morning. And the wind, the sky was black. And it was all the other guys had given up. And it was you, me, and John riding the skis all the way back.
Yeah.
And who was do you remember who the captain? Because we had a center console boat.
Yeah, I can't remember what that guy's name
was.
Oh, God. Fireman for the fire department at Miami. He was a little different. We kind of found him along the way, if that's the best way to say it. But that was definitely victory at sea coming back.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Like, I remember looking at John, and he's like, dude, you down? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And so we rode all the way back. And did Chris Lauber go on that ride?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, he wasn't riding. He was in the boat.
No, he was in the boat. But he wouldn't even take pictures because he didn't want his camera getting wet. Because we were in this rain and these winds. And, good Lord.
It was an interesting time.
Yeah. That was my introduction to going on rides with John. But we had some. I don't know. Would the next one be Tennessee?
I think it was. We may have done a few other little ones, but we had then we did Tennessee River.
Yeah, we did Tennessee, and we wanted to hitch up with the Tennessee 600,
right?
But they were going so slow,
right?
They'd stop every half an hour to smoke cigarettes.
Yeah, and we just went ahead and went. So that was good.
We split. Now here's the funny thing. It landed on my wife's best friend was getting married in Alabama. And I don't know if you remember this, but we rode from Knoxville to Decatur, Alabama.
Yep.
I got a rental car and drove down to Birmingham, and then you had another guy come in and take my spot, and you did the rest of the ride.
Yep. We got Rick Sosby came in and helped and rode the rest with us.
Sosby did it. Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Funny. Yeah. Because I split and I went to a wedding.
I would tell any of your people that are listening and everything, that's an awesome ride to river. Go do it by yourselves and everything. There's hotels like we stayed at along the river and everything. And, that was just really, really neat. And we had Lori Jacobs helping us. And we had Tracy Bowley helped us out, but they kind of took all of our luggage, from one place to the other. And Johnny James rode the photographer on the way down.
Andrea.
He had
Andrea.
Yep. And then on the way back, I used a guy named Fonzie, that really nice guy. And Fonzie on the way back didn't tell me that he was a little nervous about water. In the first lock we were in, that you weren't on that part, but he was a little nervous about water. He wasn't the best swimmer and everything. In the first lock that, we went up like 40 feet or something, it kind of freaked him out, but he did fine.
Oh, Guy, that is so funny. Well, I gotta bring this up because that ride, I had never been in Tennessee besides driving through it. When I worked for Hot Rod Magazine, I lived in Florida. We drove through Tennessee, but I never stopped. Doing the Tennessee 600, we would stop and talk to people, and it was green and the water was beautiful. And I'm like, this place is paradise. And honest to goodness, that ride was in my head when my wife and I started talking about leaving California. And I said, I want to go to Tennessee. And I thought about Knoxville. I'm like, I want to go to Knoxville. Knoxville was so cool. Well, let's move to Knoxville. But we ended up in Nashville, which is fine. Yeah. But I have to give it to you, John. Your reason why I'm here is because of that ride and let me go on with you. So that's a big thing for me.
That's one thing though, Kevin, all these rides we get to do, it's lifetime memories and stuff like that. And, it's great to see everybody out doing neat rides and stuff. I think that's so important for the industry, for people to see that you can do these rides and everything, Well, you can get out and do it. And, with the progression of Watercraft and what you have on your screens and everything, it's making it much easier than some of the past times where we were like, we got a handheld, GPS, and we got a compass in the other hand, and we're hoping that they both work and everything. Now today, what's progressing is, to me, unbelievable.
Well, that's a good point. And let's kind of talk on that. Is you being at Kawasaki since the late 80s, and,
yes, sir.
In all of your different forms, I think it's important to maybe talk about the progression. And we've watched how the public's appetite has changed for personal watercraft and how it's evolved. I mean, I guess maybe you have a different perspective than we do, because obviously you're on the inside and you're getting so much feedback. What did you see over the last 25, 30 years?
Well, now's a good time to bring this up.
Okay.
What year is this? This year is our 50th anniversary of JetSki.
Yes, sir.
And actually tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time, you'll see a email blast going out, and anybody that, is not on our email blast wants to go to Kawasaki.com or whatever, they'll read what we're going to do for the 50th year of JetSki. And, when you start talking about the progression of it, it was funny the other day, they asked me, which skis I've been on. Well, this makes me feel old, but I've been on every one of them.
That's right.
One of them. So, but still, it's really neat to see for all of us and all the different brands. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Kawasaki, but the way we've progressed and, where it's even still heading towards and everything. I mean, who would have thought that we'd have these, stereo systems and be able to get your email or your phone call or whatever else,
Right.
and be able to switch to this and also see all the different parts of what your ski's doing from RPMs to this, that, trims and, no trim or, there's just so much that's progressed and everything. And I think, for people like yourself, you've seen a lot of it. I have, Mr. Jerry Gaddis has, and it's kind of fun to see like his son starting to see, what's going on. Jeff Hemmel, who, he's seen everything. And, we've all seen so much, but within here, we're just always thinking of, what does the consumer want next, and everything.
Can you draw up a little bit of maybe some of that I guess market research where you're starting to see people who are going, well, we're more interested in these attributes, or this has sprung up in popularity?
What really has been seen, and I would think all the OEMs would say this, is people wanted sound. They wanted
Okay.
music and everything. And I think that's really one of the things that's been really big. Then you get another group of people, that are into the racing and everything that want to see the trim on it or see, this, that, or the other. And some people want to see, the different things that you can do on the screens and everything. Our screen, anybody's screen, they've just become, everybody wants more, more, more. No different than what everybody wants more, more, more out of their friggin' iPhone.
That's right.
It's
Yeah.
kind of to me the same thing, They want their ski to be their iPad or whatever else, They want it to do everything. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but
No, that's exactly
it's
right.
it's
Yeah.
what people see. In different age groups, I think want to see a few different things, but I think everybody on the whole wants to see the same thing. It's just like on the ski you're getting ready to ride at our intro, people wanted that ski to be there that's not supercharged, but the person that can show up at their house, at their lake house, or, do something with them, has just about everything as Big Brother has, but they want it, to not be, the supercharged.
Yeah, get the fuel economy. I want all
Yes.
the bells and whistles, but I want the fuel economy.
Yeah.
That was kind of the big thing that I thought, and everything that I had heard, and going on rides with different groups
Yes.
and different clubs, they would all flock to the naturally aspirated but fully trimmed out, unit. And they're like, oh, well, I wanted the sound, or I wanted the GPS, or I wanted the XYZ, and they would shoot for that, but they're like, but I want the fuel mileage because I'm going on long distance rides and I want to be comfortable. So I thought the 160 LX and LXS were the right move on that one.
Yep. I truly believe they are. And, that with all of our data and feedback, that's what people were looking for.
Yeah. Well, speaking of someone wanting something, we have a super chat. It's not so much a question, but we got Watercraft Shack saying, I want an STX 310. And right now, if you want an STX 310, you need to reach out to the guys at K-Speed, and they'll happily make you one for whatever their asking price is.
And that's something, I'm sure a lot of people are going to have questions about wanting this and wanting that, The one thing I want people to understand is when you write in, it does go to the right people. When you write Kawasaki, it does get, a lot of times, we can't do everything. And some of the stuff we get is like, really? But I just want people to know, though, that all those emails are sent to the product managers. So it's not like your email comes in and it goes off to here. The product managers do want to see it, and they do look at everything.
Okay, well, that's great. That's good to hear. We did have it wasn't a super chat, but I definitely want to bring this one up because he did have. Oh shoot, I blew past it and I wanted to bring it up. We had a question for you. Oh, here we go. Because Jon has been there, has been at Kawasaki for so long. Jaime wrote, "What is Jon's favorite Kawi model of all time? If you were to pick one, what would be your favorite? It's going to be the Super Chicken, isn't it?
You know what? It's I've had a lot of fun on Super Chickens. And you know what was always interesting about Super Chicken? I'll answer this 1 second. But the Super Chicken, when we would do the Miami Boat Show, we would sell so many of the SC models because they were using them. People were using them to go from house to house. You know, the husband and wife could hop on it. They're going up the canal and easier to get around than the car and everything. We would sell so many of them at the Miami Boat Show.
Oh,
Okay.
get out of here. That's funny.
You know, for my favorite, it would have to be one of the stand-ups.
Yeah? Which one?
I still enjoy them. Probably the 800.
Ah, yes! That's mine too.
I would have to say
stand-up is 800.
I would have to say that would be it. And I really enjoy, like Kevin, you know, and I've done so many long distance rides. We're getting ready to do 120 miles, you and I are, in a couple of weeks and everything. I really enjoy that. Obviously, can't do that really on the stand-ups and everything. It's just not feasible. But I like them all. I can find something fun about it all because I get asked all the time, so which motorcycle or which side-by-side do I like the best, you know? And you know what? I like a bunch of them. It depends on what I want to do that day. So, like, I would need a garage as big as this place here to have everything that I want. And, you know, when they talk about ATV, and I like our Brute Force 750, you know, and it's more of a utility quad, but we ride it more like a sport quad. But there's so many, and on the motorcycle end, you know, everybody says, oh, do you want, you know, one of the H2s or something like that? You know, I like them all. I can find something fun to do with each and every one of them. And that's not just a BS deal asking, you know, but it's my true feelings and everything. But I'd love the 800 stand up.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, you're exactly right. It's like, well, hey, listen, I don't need, you know, I don't need a sledgehammer to hammer in a nail. I don't, you know, I want all the tools at my disposal, but I don't need the same tool every day. So it's like, hey, today I'm going to go ride just around some buoys at Body Beach. Well, I'm going to do it on an 800 because that one's fun and flickable. But hey, I want to go do a long distance ride with some friends and put a cargo rack on the back. Well, okay, maybe a naturally aspirated LX is going to be it. And then it's like, oh, hey, listen, I want to do a vintage ride. Okay, well, I want to get on a STXR or whatever. Yeah. So it's hard. It's really hard to pick your favorite kid out of all of them.
You know, you had Mark Gomez on a week or so ago. And you know what to me is fun is like him and his wife can do anything on skis or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But you know what? I went out there for a media ride last fall. And we had fun on just sit downs and everything. But watching those two and the other people, there was a couple couples, you know? And then it was me and Katamori just riding and Bobby. And, you know, just seeing them have fun and, you know, knowing they ride so many different skis as I would too. And I think that's probably, I would say, with a large portion of your readership and also viewership is everybody has a little bit of everything.
Right.
They may have a sit down, they may have a stand up, they may, you know, in whatever day it is, you know, they may bounce around. Like our product manager for Four Wheel here, he's really big on stand-ups, you know, and he goes down to San Diego on Saturdays and rides because his wife lets him on Saturdays. But no, it's, you know, I think there's so many different ones, and I think that's how I'd answer that.
No, that's fine. That's great. I do have we do have a public relations question, and it'll lead to another question of mine. But here's a good one. This is from Steven. He writes, John, was the mention of Kawasaki mules on the show Yellowstone a paid ad? Now, you've explained to me how media works a little bit when it comes to putting a product in. Is this, I don't want to, this isn't a gotcha, but it is kind of interesting to find when you see product in a show or in a movie.
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Each one's very different. And Steven, if you want to buy me a glass of wine sometime, I'll tell you the real truth to that one.
Oh,
But I
okay.
can tell you there was not a penny paid for that one.
Okay.
It has, and this, I don't want it to sound like bragging, but I have a lot of friends that are in the movie business that come to me at times for borrowing of product and stuff like that. And I know a lot of writers for a lot of the products, a lot of the movies and stuff like that, and they borrow products. How is it usually done? It's usually done with paid. We've also been bitten too. A lot of times, when we've loaned stuff, we've done so many different movies and everything. But that mention was a personal favor, is
Oh,
what I
cool.
can
Oh, that's
can
neat.
say.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to,
No, that's fine. But I will say the movie industry is probably one of the hardest things because they'll borrow it and then they'll tell you, oh, well, if you want it seen or if you don't want the name not taken off and everything. Another really good one that was good for us for many, many years was Little People, Big World. Me and Jan
Oh,
Plesner,
okay.
we got involved with that, and we loaned them a lot of mules. And some friends of mine at Polaris then bought the show, kind of, and they were not happy with me because he would always call his Polaris Ranger a mule. Let me get my mule.
Okay.
So, but
Now,
no, it can vary from movie to movie. I could name a bunch of movies that I've been involved with and everything. That's been kind of interesting.
okay. Well,
Well,
I
it's
was
just
gonna.
like you know, 30 feet away from me are the two motorcycles that were in Top Gun.
Dang it! You already jumped to it. I was teeing up for this one question. All right. I actually love this story, and I didn't know if you were allowed to share it because
Yeah.
it's so cool. But Chris jumped in and had to ask. My understanding is that Tom wanted the Ninja in the first 1986 movie,
That's
but
correct.
they weren't going to play ball with Cowie, and maybe someone at Cowie was like, "Oh, this movie doesn't sound very good," but he
And
didn't.
who is this actor? Who is this actor?
Well, okay, you tell it better than I do.
It was just it's we all have blunders and we all stumble on ourselves and everything, but they ended up buying the Ninja, and the Ninja, like I said, sitting 30 feet away from me. But it's the first one. They took all the markings off of it, but it was the only one. Now the second movie, when they called and asked us if we were interested, we kind of knew who he was, and I took some motorcycles up there. When this is years ago, before the movie came out, when they were first starting the writing and everything. So
Okay.
it was yes, we did have a lot to do with that, but we can only promote it a very little bit. The movie thing is a very, very funky deal.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well,
I
but that
did,
goes with everything with product placement.
yes.
It's all making money. It's
Yep.
all, if they're
Mhm.
drinking a Pepsi versus a Coke or whatever the heck it might be, he's wearing a pair of Nike shoes or something.
But tell Steven from the Yellowstone deal, that was an interesting deal, but he'd have to buy me at least a glass of wine and I'll tell him the whole story to it. But it's a pretty interesting deal. And I think every OEM would have stories about TV
Oh
and
yeah.
movie and everything. We probably get each week, probably 3 rap artists or music artists that ask us to do something. We just did something with the guy from Florida Georgia Line, where we're in one of the we've been in a couple of their videos.
Okay. Very cool.
And then
Well,
also, go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. Oh,
No,
I was gonna make a little joke that
okay.
uh, I get text messages from John every now and again where he's like, "Hey, flying into Nashville, no time to see you. Got to hang out with Garth. See you around." And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And it's like, "Oh yeah, John just happens to be really good friends with Garth Brooks and hangs out at their house." And what world is this?
But I don't want it ever to sound like bragging or anything, but I do
No,
have
no,
an
no.
interesting group of people that I do know. I'm very blessed to know them. A lot of it came from the NASCAR stuff and everything, but it's Jocelyn said my coworker Jocelyn's always said I don't want your Rolodex. So I told her, I said, they're all coded in there anyhow. But no, it's it's an interesting deal. And then, when we were involved with PBR, I did a lot with a lot of the bull riders and stuff like that. JB Mooney, we did a lot of stuff with, and a couple others, Shane Proctor, and then some of the others. They're really, really down earth and good people. I also am for my personal self, I'm into the Western lifestyle. I like that. I like putting on my cowboy boots. I like, doing, roping or something, or just being involved with that kind of outdoor. It's very family oriented. Kevin, you're very family oriented, which I appreciate what you're doing. I love seeing when you take your daughter on these rides and stuff like that. But also too, when you come to PBR, when we used to do that, you bring your whole family, and I think family and family time. And you know what? That's the thing about PWC. About riding jet skis. It is about having your family with you and everything. But I do very much enjoy the Western lifestyle.
Very cool. Very cool. We have a question from Henry, and I
Hey,
don't
Henry.
know. I don't know if you'd probably be able to answer this, but it is an interesting, just because of the timeliness. Henry writes, with Dodge coming out with the Demon 170, which, if you didn't know, is the last hurrah of the supercharged Hemi
Yes.
with Dodges, and it makes 1,025 horsepower on E85. That's the big thing, is that it makes over 1,000 horsepower, because as someone who owns a Dodge magazine, I can't prove it, but I'm pretty sure that there is a room in the Walter P. Chrysler building that is simply dedicated for them to do lines of cocaine and think of ideas for cars, because some of the things they come out with is insane. But with the Demon 170 coming out, what are the chances of Kawasaki making a race bike or any race engine capable of running on E85 from the factory?
That's something that I would say, we're always working on stuff. And especially now with everybody talking about the E and, stuff like that,
The electric stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, I can't really answer that one, but what I could say is that we're working on, and we're always working on, new innovative stuff. But on that one, I really couldn't answer it correct. So I hate to. I don't like dodging any question, but that one's just I couldn't answer it correctly.
Right. Well, I would say this on my end, and because I'm pulling this out of the ether, I guess it's fair game. But the problem with E85, especially for watercraft applications, is twofold. A, E85 or any high ethanol fuel has a very high propensity for moisture getting in the fuel. So in a marine application, E85 is pretty, I wouldn't say dangerous, but it's a gamble, especially with a dock that may not be up to code. When it comes to a race bike, access to E85, I mean, you're talking race applications, you could bring whatever fuel you want to a race, to a race application. But I think he's saying like from the factory, so that would imply like the H2R being a 300 horsepower bike, which is insane. You guys are effectively the Dodge of motorcycles and watercraft. But and I mean that with the utmost respect, being a diehard Dodge guy. And I know you're very Chevrolet, so you're tolerating my insanity. But
yeah, you know what though, Kevin, is we're always looking at that stuff, and I think if people really look at our H2Rs and stuff like that, what's really cool about that is when I talk about Kawasaki, is all of our different divisions, whether it was gas turbine or whatever, so many different divisions worked on that bike. It wasn't just, our motorcycle division. Everybody kind of pitched in. And, Kawasaki's very, proud, and they should be proud of of what they're doing there. And, they've done runs at Bonneville with that bike and everything, and done really well.
Was that bike developed in Japan, or was it a joint with US and Japan, or?
I would say it was more Japan.
Okay.
And
Fair enough.
we still sell a fair amount of them every year. People, collectors, and people want them and want to have it. It's a really interesting motorcycle. I've been lucky enough to get to ride it. You need to be prepared because it's very interesting.
I am not. I have not been on a sport bike in a very long time. That was a promise I made to my then girlfriend, now wife, that I was going to hang up motorcycles. Unfortunately, that was the concession I made. But she lets me to have old muscle cars that do stupid things.
And I think that's great because, I think it's like the one thing I think COVID did do for anybody that's involved with personal watercraft, and jet skis, is so many people started looking for the old SCs and rebuilding them and doing funky stuff with them and having fun times with it. I know that our parts and accessory group here, Greg Lashevsky's over there now, and how many parts they were getting asked for older stuff and everything, and
interesting.
How much that went up and everything. It was, and just the Bobbies and everybody else who has still some of the old stuff, how much that changed, and people were getting stuff out and using it, and I think that's great. So it's neat to see, like you're doing with your muscle cars, and I love watching what you do with that. But even though it's not a Chevrolet, one day, but it's it's really cool to see, and I bet you a lot of your listeners and then also your readers all have maybe a vintage ski, or are always thinking, well, maybe I should rebuild this thing and everything else and get it back out on the water. And I think you see so many. I know in California we see a lot.
Yeah. By the way, we have Greenholt Garage. We have Greg here, so Greg wanted to say hi.
And we're looking forward to see him. And that's the one thing that I've been very lucky about too. And I think I said in the very beginning is, and people like Jerry, yourself, and I can name the people from the boating magazines that we've all, Pluderman and just Jeff Hemmel and all those people, they're all very important to us. And, that's something that's been important to me is I don't care if somebody's a big media person or a small media person. Everybody here, they're all important to Kawasaki. Sometimes I can't take everybody to press intros, but it doesn't mean that I won't do something maybe on a smaller scale or stuff like that.
Right.
A lot of people in the four-wheel stuff I do.
Okay. Yeah. That's a good point. I have a good question here. It's not a super chat, but this is a good one. And this one's easily explained, but I think it's a good question. That was Jerry. That wasn't Greg. Jerry just texted me. He goes, dude, that was me, not Greg. All right. Sorry. All right. So Real Splash, he writes, what about adding a stereo to the 310X? It's not stock. Well, I'll take it from here, but I want to actually ask you a different question. And that is, the 310X is meant to be the entry supercharged Ultra. It's zero frills, all go, no fat, super trimmed, ready to go. And then you'll find that the LXS and then the LX are trimmed or equipped with accessories on top to meet different audiences. So the 310X, I don't want to have a sound system.
Right.
If I was to buy an Ultra, I want the X. Well, I want the R, but I want the X. If I had my choice of the three, I'm going to jump on the X because it's like, oh, this is how I'm gonna ride it. I don't need the extra, Ultra deck, or I don't need the reverse facing camera. I want the hot rod, and so that is kind of the point. Now, there's two things I want to ask you because you presented that to me at the press intro. Was number one, because of the Kawasaki accessories department, you can effectively equip any any Ultra with anything that's on the X or the LX, excuse me.
LX, yeah.
And then number two, the other question would be, inside of Kawasaki, what were the audiences that you guys were targeting with all three machines?
Well, I think they're all three different.
That's my point.
You have you know, that wants one thing, and then some want a little bit more. It's all different audiences, and that's why we tried to hit all three. So I'm maybe not answering it the right way, but
I just didn't know if you kind of had, if Kawasaki had a whiteboard just saying, okay, the Ultra 310 LX buyer is the guy who wants.
Yes, we do have that.
Okay, and so I didn't know if there was like a grouping that you looked at, like, okay, well, the LXS is going to be more of the tow sports guy, and okay.
We do have most of that. Croft would have to have that. I'd have to talk with him just to make sure on a little bit of that. Now, when he's asking for the stereo, you can't get it. Is he trying to add one to it?
I think he's trying to. Well, he's just saying it's not
stock.
It's not stock. I believe that's what.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah. I believe that's what he's saying. If it's not in stock, then it's just okay. Well, parts are parts, man.
Well, I was just going to tell you, if you want, if you email me, I could check.
Okay. All right. We've got a super chat from Steven, and this is interesting. This one's a little different. We're throwing a curveball at you. Says, do you think the electric foil board will eat sales from entry skis like the Spark? Any planned Kawasaki membership programs like Polaris? Well, there's two different. I think Steven's bringing up two different things.
Yeah.
The electric foil boards, meaning like the Raiden boards or these electric jet drive surfboards.
Yeah.
That he's talking about. Do you think that, because
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. They're very different.
To me, it's two different genres of type people that would use it.
Yeah. That's like saying the Spark would eat sales from the SXR 160. It's a totally different audience.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Steven, I think we both agree that the first part, no, they're going to be they're too different. It's a non sequitur. And then it says, any planned Kawasaki membership programs like Polaris? I'm not familiar with what Polaris has. I don't know if
I'm not either. If he has that question, you can feel free to, if he could elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, he's in the chat. So
I'll be more than glad to try to answer that.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that one threw me off. Well, I didn't know the Polaris program either, so I had to apologize. Okay, so we find out tomorrow morning, my time, what's going on with the 50th, and that'll be something pretty cool to announce. I know that we have an article that we're working on that is going over the history of the Kawasaki JetSki. And that's going to be coming up in the next week or so. And we'll probably be digging up a lot of really cool old vintage photos and things like that.
Kevin, we do have some of that if you need it.
Oh, great. Yeah, then I'll email you, and we'll make sure to get everyone in the same loop, because it'd be cool to get official photos from Kawasaki.
And we're going to be talking about some of the different skis and the ones that, were milestones and everything. We're going to be doing that along the way. And any of your listeners or readers, the one thing that they can do is, if they want to get, when we do put this stuff out, if they'll go to Kawasaki.com and sign up, they'll get it in there, get an email about it.
Okay. All right. And Stephen did elaborate, and this is the first I've ever heard, and I'm going to bring it up. He says Polaris has a membership program for sleds, bikes, slingshots, and side-by-sides as like pay but not own. So like a lease deal.
So we have a fleet guy, and we did have some lease programs for, some of the people that were doing, jet ski rentals and stuff like that. We don't have that as of right now.
Okay. Yeah. Rent, not to own, but because I don't know if you remember, there was a couple outfits. I know Chris McCluggage was initially involved, where you paid a monthly fee and you simply went down to a dock at any time and you could ride a ski or a boat. So maybe that's a similar program. Yeah, he says one weekend you want a bike and then another weekend you want a sled. Okay. Yeah, it's one of those sorts of programs.
Sorry we don't have it. One thing I will do though is I will write that down and I will bring it up in a meeting with our fleet guy. That's the best I can do for you, Stephen. But I will be more glad to bring it up.
Yeah, it's just an interesting program. I just hadn't I hadn't heard that an OE had something like that. Mm-hmm. All right, well, John, I mean, we can sit here and reminisce over rides for the next hour, but I think that would bore the pants off of some people. No one really cares, but I'm excited for in a couple weeks we're going to be meeting up. We'll go ride the 160s, and then shortly thereafter, I hopefully get to. I'll sadly have to give up the 310 and trade out for a 160, but I'll be happy to do it either way. I wish I put more hours.
That's your pick of which one you want too. I'm going to tell you that.
I want the orange one. I know it's got less stuff, but I want I've joked with everyone here. I said, if only I could get I think it was like 2016 or 2017 where Cowie had that really neat metallic burnt orange. And it was on the SE. It was on the 310 SE. And I thought that was the most handsome color you guys ever came out with. And that's the color I want on if ever if turquoise gets phased out for the X next year or the year after, or a new R comes out. Well, the R is going to be green. I know it's going to be green. You guys can't help yourself. But if the SE comes back or the X changes colors, bring that burnt orange back because, man, that thing's heavenly. I love it. That's my favorite.
We will. Hey, and if you want some NASCAR stories sometime, we can always do those. Or I can give one if you want.
But share one just for fun.
Okay, so one of the times when I was on team, one of our friends with another team, and I prefer not to say which one, we were at a track and the engine went bad in his car and he didn't have another one. And he couldn't afford really to rent one and stuff like that. So he went to the airport that was about 5 miles away and did a rental car. We pulled the motor out and we put it got it running for the NASCAR track. We did the whole race. Then we had to switch the motor back and took it back to the rental car place. And we told him that it was burning a little bit of oil, we thought. And he says, you only put 20 miles on the car. Why do you mean it's burning oil? So that was just one of them. But there's many, many, many great stories. I was very lucky to work for one of the best teams, RCR. So there's a lot of great times. But, there's a lot of great times with the PWC. And the one thing I would like to everybody take away is the thing about the passion that's at the place that I work at and have been at for a long time.
That's great. John, thank you very much for joining us. I think it was a lot of fun. We hopefully answered most everyone's questions. We answered every super chat that came in. So I really want to thank you. I want to thank Kawasaki for letting me borrow John for a little bit. And hopefully I didn't get him in trouble and put him in the hot seat. But really want to Lori's here. We can't leave without saying hi to Lori. Lori's here.
Well, Lori helped us at Kawasaki with so many different, parts and pieces of doing the whole Mississippi River or doing a lot of rides.
Oh, yeah.
Also, too, what people got to remember is Lori's history. When she was a test rider for Polaris and everything, she's a big part of the, PWC or the jet ski industry. She's a huge part of it. And thanks to her for always helping us out here. I really can't thank her.
Lori, thank you for coming in. It was great to see you, even if only digitally. Well, I was going to sign out and say thank you to Jon again. Thank you to everyone at Kawasaki. Thank you, Jon, for stepping in, letting us pick your brain. Now's the opportunity. Yeah, now's the opportunity to leak out anything before we sign out. No.
I think I'll hit escape.
Now. Exit out of the window. You're good. Well, guys, thanks again for tuning in. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. This was a lot of fun for me. I can't announce what we have come up in the next couple weeks just yet, but we got some really cool guests coming up. So thank you again for tuning into the Watercraft Journal podcast. If you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel, please do. We update every day with new videos, Monday through Friday, as well as putting out new articles at watercraftjournal.com. And we do not charge subscriptions. There's no downloads. There's no passwords. So subscribe to America's most popular personal watercraft magazine. You will not regret it. You'll get your money's worth. I'm just joking. All right. Thanks again, guys. Thank you again, Jon. Have a great night.